Karen Stupples, as promised, is with us now. She won the 2004 Women's Open, and I want to talk to her about Erin Hills. Karen, first of all, thanks for joining us. It's a big ballpark. It is a massive, massive canvas. It can stretch to over 6,800 yards for this week, but the weather forecast coming in on Thursday and Friday is looking like some pretty strong wind gusts. There's a pretty good chance of rain on Thursday as well. Your overall impressions on the field of battle?
I think it's going to be a very interesting test for these players. The USGA always seems to cover all bases when it comes to their course setups. They have a number of tee options on some different holes to create some different choices for the players when it comes to what they choose to hit off the tee. Lots of trouble comes into play at about 250, but I think some of the longer players will have a bit of an advantage. They can carry some of the corners and get it into some good spots. There's a load of blind shots, both off the tee and into the greens as well. So you're going to have a player that's pretty creative, that can use a lot of visualization to see and imagine where the ball's going to finish up and end up, and not just trust their eyesight to what they're going to see. It's a very interesting test for these players. It's something that they don't normally see, because it's kind of has a links feel to it, except it's, as you can see from these pictures, it is very lush out there right now. They've had quite a bit of rain, and so it's going to play a little softer. There's some more rain in the forecast as well. It's going to be interesting test, and I'm always excited to see how the amateurs play. I think this year you've got an exceptional group of amateur players playing in the field, and I wouldn't be surprised to see one of those contending at the end of the week.
Oh, that's a fascinating observation, because I wanted to ask you about that with, you're talking about major championships, and we have this conversation coming into a lot of majors. We go, what's really the group that a player has to beat in order to win it? So you've got 156 player field. You've got 40 first timers in the field, some of whom will include those elite amateurs that you were just discussing, Karen. As you've been there, you're a multiple-time winner yourself. What is it like when you're in an event? How much does that field actually net down? I think back in the day, Jack Nicklaus used to say 20, maybe 30 players that he had to win at a major championship. Where would you put that number here?
Oh, I think it's a completely different ballgame when you look at women's golf. Every week, it's very open right now. The LPGA had a dominant player in Nelly last year. This year, she hasn't been the same Nelly that she was last year. So there isn't one dominant player on the LPGA tour right now. So it's wide open for anybody to kind of walk into that role. There are a number of players that have been playing well. You have a Gino, you have Lydia Ko, a Hey Dun Yu, and those players play consistently well. So you expect to, the top 10 players in the world should be contending. However, at a US Open, it's proven to have some crazy winners over the years. I mean, if you think about Hilary Lunkey at Pumpkin Ridge, that was a prime example. Birdie Kim at Cherry Hills, players that just come out of the blue nowhere, all of a sudden that they're a major champion, and the biggest championship in women's golf at the US Women's Open. So it's very hard to say that there are just 20% of the field that you've got to beat. You like to think it's that, but it really isn't that in women's golf. I mean, Jenny Shashiraporn contended at Black Wolf Run here in Wisconsin as well, a number of years ago when she played against Siri Pak, got into the playoffs, and that was an exciting time. And I think, I wouldn't be surprised to see that sort of thing happen again. I think the USGA setups are very similar across the board. They have very challenging golf courses for the players to play. And I think if you've played amateur golf, you have more experience of playing USGA setups. And I think that's an advantage. I also think that when you come into a US Open, when you have $2 million as the first prize, if you're an amateur, you don't have to think about the money. You don't have to think about what you might lose. You can leave it all out there on the golf course and see where it shakes up. So I think that's why it's so open in women's golf.
That's beautiful. That makes it even more exciting, actually. You mentioned the $2 million on offer for whoever wins this U.S. Women's Open. The purse total is $12 million. What's the reaction that you're hearing from the women? Is this moving in the right direction? Are they pleased with what they're seeing? Does more need to be done?
I think in general that the players ought to be insanely happy with the direction that everything's going. So much of the improvements that have been made on the LPGA Tour and with women's golf in general have been from a player's perspective. You think about on the tour, they now have health insurance, pension. You know, everything is going in the right direction. Sometimes they get a stipend if they miss the cut at certain events. Certainly that will happen this week too for the players. So it's, you know, they're getting a way to cover their expenses and to have you know, a good life basically. So everything is, you know, with regards to players is going in the right direction for sure. So they better not be complaining.
Karen, you mentioned Nelly Korda, to paraphrase, that she's not the player coming into this U.S. Open this year that she was last year. What are you seeing from Nelly?
It's very interesting with Nelly. She's displaying all the signs of her greatness from last year. You know, everything that she did last year, she's doing, except she's having one round here and there that really kind of throws her out of contention, and she has to fight back. If you think back to the Chevron Championship a month or so ago in Houston, she basically took herself out of it in the first round, and then she had to fight to make the cut, and it was just a really big uphill battle for her. And that's kind of been the story of her year. There's just been one round that hasn't been quite up to speed. So it's, if she can stay consistent and be consistently good across the board, she will definitely be in contention here this week, because it's the kind of golf course that I think Nelly will absolutely love to play, because it kind of rewards good driving. And of course, Nelly's one of the best drivers in the business. And if the putter gets hot, I think watch out.
All right, we have about a minute and a half here left, Karen. What about, you mentioned Gino and Lydia. How about their prospects this week?
I think Gino's are exceptionally good. She never ceases to impress me every time she steps foot on a golf course. She's very giving with her time. I mean, when she was winning the Mizuho, we did an interview with her on the 14th tee, just as, you know, things were getting pretty tight for her. She had a 4-shot lead, went that back down to 2, but she graciously said yes to do an interview, which tells me that she's insanely comfortable with her position, with the potential for winning, and that she's okay with any kind of result that can happen. And that's a crucial part of success, is acceptance. So she's a very dangerous character, but a very fun one to watch, because she's good across the board and her putting is just exceptional. And of course, US Opens are about putting. Lydia too, fun player to watch, very creative. And I think using her imagination will be her strength here this week at Erin Hills, because I think you need it for those blind shots.
Karen, thank you very much for your time. We're very much looking forward to your work this week. And as we say goodbye to you, let's bring up the air times for the U.S. Women's Open for this week so that you guys can see how and when and where you'll be able to get your coverage. It starts Thursday at noon. All these times are Eastern on USA Network, 6 to 8 on Peacock, Saturday from 1 to 3 on Peacock, then 3 to 6 on NBC, and then Sunday from 2 until 7 p.m. Eastern, or conclusion of play. You can catch it all on NBC.